So right here, right now, make that commitment to your own future, to memorizing your own future. When you notice that your memory is less than what you want next, change your memory. Access the power of the Queen in Alice in Wonderland. Access the power of imagination that goes hand in hand with memory. Access our powers, our principles of prayer and meditation. That which you focus on, that's the law of mind actually, is what you get more of. Bring it even more fully embodied into your system. Bring it even more fully integrated into your heart and your mind and your soul. And all of a sudden you will be creating beautiful memories of the future that you choose to share. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Roderick. Thank you, Emma. Ooh, it is well with my soul. How about y'all? Did you see how quickly I went back to Texan? Just saying. It is so wonderful to see you all here today. It's been a week since I was here. It feels like a month, actually, to me, but it was a good week. It was just full, but it is so well with my soul. So today we honor Memorial Day. I have always said Happy Memorial Day. We say that, it's what we say, but when you think about it, it's a little odd that we say that, right? It's like, wait, what? Happy Day of the Dead. Oh no, that's Halloween. Happy, wait, what? Anyway, I wanted to take a moment and start with really, what is Memorial Day? Now, when I was growing up, it was all about hot dogs and the first day the swimming pool was open and the last day of school. Yes? Yes. But it is the day that we honor those who gave their lives for the freedom we experience in this country, for the experience of life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. And life is God-given life. Like life itself is our God-given right, our unalienable right. Liberty is a state of being free to the degree that we even know what freedom means, right? Some days we think we could do a little better in freedom. Other days we feel pretty free. But the pursuit of happiness is really the opportunity to keep an open heart. If your life isn't particularly happy right now, could you reframe that and be willing to open your heart? Because every time we open our hearts, we open to a greater possibility of the experience of happiness. Another way to say life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is really to value the values of humanity, life, humility, and harmony. And I went, oh, I like that. I didn't make it up, I found it. It was on Google. But to value those things put us in the place of conscious awareness, right? It puts us in a place of conscious co-creation, that which we can consciously bring our awareness to. Last week when I was here, I was talking about alignment over agreement. So that alignment is putting us aligned with spirit first. And every single time we do that, we open ourselves to a greater awareness of life, of liberty, of the pursuit of happiness. Not happiness over and above anybody else, not life over and above anybody else, but for all of us. So Memorial Day is a good day to activate the awareness of the gifts that we have, the opportunities that we have. It's also a fabulous day to talk about our faculty of memory. That's where we're going. But first, a joke. I do have to tell you that I did get a text from one of you all last week and said, wait a minute, I didn't hear a bad joke. I said, oh, sorry, I'm slipping. Those of you who know, right? So it was Memorial Day, and it was a Sunday morning in a big church, and there was a 7-year-old little Johnny who was looking up at the wall, and on this particular wall, there were plaques of names, and beside each name was a little American flag. And he was just studying that and looking at that, and the priest came up to him and said, hey, Johnny, how are you doing today? He goes, I'm good, but what's this? And the priest said, oh, those are the names of all the people who died in the service. I'm not done yet. Little Johnny says, oh, which one, the 9 or the 11? Roderick, I thought for sure I'd get a groan over there. But anyway, you got the punchline before I gave the punchline, but that's good because you got the punchline. So what is memory? Memory is a faculty that we have. It goes hand in hand with the power, the 12 powers, the power of imagination. But memory is typically only used half. It's only used typically when we talk about memory backwards, memory of the past. But what do you remember? What is it that you remember? Like, think about that for a minute. This is a serious question, actually. What is it that you remember? So, for example, sometimes when you have an experience and like 99% of it is fabulous, but that 1%, somebody says something and you go, what do you remember? Right? Sometimes you have an experience and there's amazing brilliance happening, but you might have stumbled on a word. What do you remember? And when you remember those things, what do you rehearse? And how often does that get locked into the storyline, the loopy mind? You know the loopy mind, right? The mind that goes da 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 da, that creates the ruts that get you stuck in life. But why do you remember the bad stuff? Why don't you remember the good stuff? Like, for example, when somebody has died, it's usually a mixed bag, especially if it's a fresh death, right? But it's normal and natural. It's the way our brain functions to remember both and. But the places that we get caught are usually the negative, or it's the regrets, or it's the defense, or it's the resistance, or it's the blame, or it's the guilt, any of those things. But the truth is, you have power over your memory. Think about like when something happens, a car accident or a fire or something, and they're interviewing witnesses, and there's 12 people there, and how many versions of the story do they get? Right? 30. With 12 people. And then that story continues to morph because of the way our brain functions. It continues, you latch on to something, a piece of evidence, a specific aspect, maybe a sight or a smell or a taste or a thought that happened when that was happening, and that becomes your memory base. But the thing is, memory has very little to do with fact. So just because you remember something doesn't mean it's true. Wait, what? Together. Wait, what? The question is, why do you focus on more of the ugly than the good? But the power is to begin to realize that we have a whole nother aspect of memory that most of us have never even accessed. It's the future memory. Alice in Wonderland. the White Queen. Says it's a poor sort, the Queen's talking to Alice, and she says, it's a poor sort of memory that only works backwards. What sort of things do you remember? Asked Alice. And the Queen responded, oh, the things that happened the week after next. She goes on in that scene to talk about believing impossible things. Like, how can you remember what hasn't happened? How can you believe impossible things? And the Queen says, it takes practice. Sometimes I believe 6 impossible things before breakfast. And Alice is kind of caught, right, in what she thinks she knows, but her mind is blown. But the thing about Alice in Wonderland as a movie, as a book, is it was brilliant. And somewhere around the year 2000 or so, there's a whole scientific study, there's a whole scientific basis for future memory that says it's not only about the past, it's also about helping you act appropriately in the future. That's Eleanor Maguire from the University College London. You need to project yourself forward in order to work things out in the present. Now, many years ago, I came across a body of work called Futuring. Long before I knew Joe Dispenza, and long before I studied that work, and excuse me. And the power of futuring was to put yourself in the future and to act from that place. So it's not really a new idea. It's not really a new practice, but the way it was taught, the way it was presented, and the way I began practicing it changed everything. So I have a 14-year-old granddaughter, and some more on the way. You know that. But she's facing a massive knee surgery because she's an athlete. She's a sports person, and it was supposed to be Tuesday, and it got postponed Monday night as my daughter's flying home for the Tuesday morning surgery, and it got postponed. And it's like, we're all ready for that, right? Everybody's ready, and Jaden's ready, and yeah, we're going to do it. And then it's like, oops. Insurance hasn't been cleared, it's postponed. It's like, what? You know what her coach said? Oh, good, she can play in one more tournament. And she did. Anyway, that's not the point of my story. The point of my story is we're beginning to see Jaden after the surgery. Right? Because it's easy to be caught up in concern and worry and anesthesia and what if they do the wrong knee and, whatever, right? But to see her, like, at the end of the surgery is futuring. To see her coming through the anesthesia and waking up in the recovery room is futuring. To see her playing, she probably can't play fall sports her first year of high school, but winter sports for sure. To see her playing those sports, to see her with full and better use of that knee, to see her, continuing to get those home runs that she gets on her softball team and make those soccer goals that she makes on her soccer team, continuing to see that, and to see her, she's 14, to see her at 15, celebrating her 15th birthday with all these, amazing achievement because she got her leg fixed, right? It's easy to go, oh no, how's she going to be non-weight bearing for a month? I have no idea, but you know what? I'm not her mom, so I don't have to worry about it. I can just see her fully recovered. That's futuring. You can also use it if you've got a big meeting coming up or a phone call you got to make that you don't want to make or a moment of conflict. Just see yourself on the other side of it. Like an hour in the future. You see yourself going in. Maybe you've got a doctor's appointment yourself and you're like worried about what they're going to say. Just see yourself coming out of it going, that was amazing. It changes everything. And by everything, I mean not necessarily the outcome, but the reaction to the outcome. It changes our biochemistry, it changes our neurology, it changes our nervous system, it changes our state of mind, it changes our brain waves. So what would you love? What would you love? What would you love in this moment? What would you love in this day? What would you love at the end of this week? What would you love at the end of this year? What would you love in 3 years future? 3 years future is a brilliant place to play because it gets you out of figuring out how to get there. It's far enough that your brain doesn't activate in the how, because how, by the way, is absolutely none of your business. It's not. It's not. It's not a part of the co-creation process. What is a part of the co-creation process is to see it done, to see it expanded, to see whatever it is that you're seeing, and then take action in the next steps that follow up. You know, so for this ministry, get in those connection circles, get in that trusting change, open up a study group, connect with new people, consciously create a future memory. So my future memory of this ministry comes from Jeremiah. I know the plans for you. Now, how can God, Source, Spirit know the plans for you without moving into some of those other places like predetermination, all of that? The plan is for us to prosper. The plan is for you to know you're good and you're greater good. The plan is love and abundance and joy. Jesus said, I come that your life might be complete, that your life might be abundantly complete. I come that your joy might be complete. That's the plan. And as conscious human beings, how many people in here are conscious today? Oh, a few hands. Okay, that'll work. That's good enough. As conscious human beings, we have the power, the ability, and the responsibility to co-create our lives. So what would you love? Begin to memorize that. Begin to memorize the future. What does it feel like for this ministry, for example, to be overflowing again? Right? I mean, it's a beautiful crowd here today. But what does it feel like to have your next settled minister leading the way to the next step, right? But in order to activate your brilliance in your future, you get to do the work. Did you feel the energy in the room? Work. I don't want to do work. Wait, this is Sunday morning. Don't talk to me about work. I don't want to work at this. Well, the work is this. The work is unraveling the bad memories, right? Recent, short-term, long-term, historic, ancestral, cultural, all kinds of memories. Unraveling those memories, but that doesn't have to be hard work. It has more to do with a conscious choice. Yes, those things happened, whatever your list is. Doesn't matter what your list is. Yes, those things happened, but what else happened? Oh, we connected. Oh, we met new people. Oh, we had a new idea. We accessed a point or a part of our development, right? You know, because you can't get new without creation. You can't create without creation. You can't create something new without a little bit of chaos, but the chaos doesn't have to be bad. The chaos is unraveling, shaking up the old foundation, the old soil so that you can plant new. Because if you always do what you've always done, and you always think what you've always thought, you're only going to get what you've always got. Isn't that a great line? I morphed it from something Joe Dispenza, sort of one of his main teachings. But, Roderick, one of the churches I work with created a little ditty chant on it. So if you want it, we can get it to you. But I promise you it will make your brain crazy. If you always do, anyway, I won't go there. But when we step from the relative, Emily Cady again, into the absolute, when we step from what is, doing the work of what is, remember the work of Byron Katie, loving what is, like that's coming into there's nothing and no one against me. That's coming into present moment. It's coming into taking responsibility for all that we are, all that we've experienced, and all that we are becoming. And we can begin to activate, right? Not just think, but activate activate the vibrational frequency, the frequencies, which will then lead to the thoughts, which will then lead to the actions, which will then lead to the manifestation of that which you love. We're taking responsibility for what is. 100% responsibility. Every single one of us. And when we do that, guess what we give up? Blame. Well, that stinks, right? We kind of get attached to blame, don't we? Some of us do. When I was first ordained, I was working with Maria Namath, and she has the energy of money, and she had a whole coaching academy, and she had a whole bunch of stuff on basic assumptions. And I used to go to her workshops, and they were like 5 days or whatever. And the first day, start at night, and part of the first night is you have to be 100% responsible for the experience this weekend. And all of us are like, a lot of ministers were in that work and some other people, but we're like, yeah, cool. Did you ever go and have one of those experiences? Yeah. And then the next morning, and part of what we agreed to was being in our seats on time and, all of that stuff that you do. And so the next morning, there's like 40 people in our group, and there's like 25 in the seats on time. And she lights into those of us who are in our seats. She's like, you're 100% responsible. We're like, whoa, wait, not for them. She's like, yes, for your experience here. And it was this really trippy mind thing about responsibility. It was like, wait, what? How can I be responsible that person's on an emergency phone call with their kid or whatever it was? It didn't even matter. But it set the stage for the body of work that we did. And my point of that story is that we're all 100% responsible for our experience. And if you don't like the experience you're having, then change it. That was the action, the how-to from last week. If you weren't here or you don't remember, go watch the recording. I'm sure you can find it, right? But it's notice what you notice. If you like it, keep doing more of it. If you don't, stop it. Change, pivot, choose something else. What would you love? How would you love to see this work out? One of my favorite lines, I have a lot of favorite lines, I can't wait to see how this one works itself out. I can't wait to see how this one works itself out. So we got back. We were 6 months in Arizona. We got back to Arkansas about a month ago. And we had a truck parked in a locked storage lot and all covered, so it was safe from the hail and the storms of everything. So my husband went to get the truck and uncover it, and it started right up. Battery worked, but it was missing a catalytic converter. We have a shared experience. So when? The insurance company says when. The police say when. Well, somewhere exactly between November 5th and April 28th, exactly in that window, which was the day we left and the day we got back. But anyway, it's an older truck. It's a Dodge Dakota. They don't make them anymore. It was the last in the series of whatever it is we have that. Anyway, and you couldn't find one. So Rob is masterful at finding things. 2 whole weeks talking to every single person, dealership, manufacturer, muffler shops, auto repair, everybody. Nobody could find one. They said, they're not even being manufactured, but they're going to start manufacturing them somewhere in 6 months to a year. We can't go a year without that truck. I mean, we could, but we don't want to, right? So we got a bid. Listen to this. Catalytic converter. 1 catalytic converter. We have 2. They only took 1. $5,700. Yikes. So we got the bid, and we turned it into the insurance. We turned another one in earlier. It doesn't matter. And all of a sudden, and I am just completely surrendered in the process because Rob's got the worry on this one. Right? He's taken care of it. And I trust him and spirit and source. And we kept saying, I wonder how this is going to work out. We had all kinds of possibilities. Well, maybe they'll total the truck and we'll get a new one, and maybe this and maybe that. And maybe they'll give us a rental truck for a year. Maybe this, maybe that. And all of a sudden he calls this guy. I don't know where he found him. And he goes, I think I have a generic one. Bring it by today. And we dropped it off. We figured, well, maybe a week. That was like a week before I was leaving town. I'm like, well, I hope he has it done in a week. 3 hours later, he calls. He goes, it's done. Like, what? So it was generic, not custom. It was welded, not bolted. But you know what? The check engine light is off, and that's all that matters, right? Woohoo. Wonder how this is going to work out. But I wonder how this is going to work out opens the field to infinite possibilities, right? Instead of, this isn't going to work out. We're here again. I don't want to do this. I don't like this. I'm mad. I'm frustrated. Those are all common experiences, but they also become memories. So notice when you do that, and then what if? I can't wait to see how this works out. I can't wait to see the miraculous outcome in this one, right? I can't wait to see opens the energy field. What are the plans that Spirit has to sort this one out? Now, you might think you're smarter than God, but I would invite you to entertain the thought that maybe there's an energy field that's bigger than you, that knows more than your brain knows. I know some of you in this room are really, 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 really smart, but what if there's something else that opens a doorway, that opens a connection? And it's often the glimmer of opening that leads to a connection, that leads to a connection, that leads to the answer or the solution or the resolution, right? Don't look for, I need it right now to look this way. Like, give that up. Let it surprise you. Let it enthrall you. Let it inspire you. Let it expand you. And when you start living that way, life gets sweet and rich. I don't mean financially, but maybe. But rich with experiences, and rich with trust, and rich with faith, and rich with well-being. It is well. It is well with my soul. And when we line up like that, what happens is heart coherence. That's another piece. The heart math work, the heart-brain coherence, that all kinds of people are adding back into their work. Because when you balance your heart with your brain, that's when you get the bioenergetic, biochemical, neurological, biochemical cocktail changes in your system that can begin to change your brain. That heart coherence is so important. Coherence is important, which relates back to alignment, but heart-brain coherence, like come together. Let your heart and your brain be one, and that one is greater than the sum of its parts. Joe Dispenza says this: when we come into heart coherence, when we find the place of no one, no body, no thing, no time, no space, then we access more awareness of energy and less on matter. Matter meaning the material world, right? Not that it matters, but the matter, right? More awareness on energy, on vibration, on frequency, on the infinite possibilities than on the matter. And when we change our brains, we access a place of co-creation, and that syncs our nervous system with the unified field. In turn, our brains become more coherent and orderly. And when we also feel the emotion of our future before that reality becomes matter, the heart produces an external magnetic field, and the brain creates an electric one. We know that we are electromagnetic beings, but that heart coherence is when your electric field and your magnetic field are lined up. It's a Wi-Fi signal into the quantum field, a magnetic charge that brings events to us. And so I challenge you. Oh, last slide. When we tune into the feelings of our future and we can stay in those feelings, then we connect to the new future. We actually begin to believe in it. Once we believe in it, it has to materialize. It's quantum. It's law. And it's experience. When it doesn't materialize, you're usually believing in something else, or you're back into the memory of how it can't work, or why it won't work, or why you don't deserve it, or why whatever your monkey mind is saying. But when you begin to memorize a future experience, everything changes. And the biggest thing that changes is you feel good in your soul. And so I challenge you. I challenge you, all of you, right here in the room, online, to begin to memorize the qualities of being, like not the details, the qualities of being of what you want your future to look like. Do you want your future to be filled with worry and stress and anxiety and fear and depression? Yes or no? No. What? Thank you. Or do you want your future to be filled with love and joy and peace and co-creation? Do you want your future to be filled with thriving, with making an impact on the world and making a difference in the world? Do you want your future to be filled with transformation and awakening, because that brings more love to our planet? Could we use a little more love on our planet? Yes. Could any of us in this room practice a little more love to ourselves? Usually, always, yes. So right here, right now, make that commitment to your own future, to memorizing your own future. When you notice that your memory is less than what you want next, change your memory. Access the power of the Queen in Alice in Wonderland. Access the power of imagination that goes hand in hand with memory. Access our powers, our principles of prayer and meditation. That which you focus on, that's the law of mind actually, is what you get more of. Bring it even more fully embodied into your system. Bring it even more fully integrated into your heart and your mind and your soul. And all of a sudden you will be creating beautiful memories of the future that you choose to share. God bless you. God bless you. Thank you.
We've come to the offering portion of service. The process is simple, no need to be nervous. Give electronically, the methods are many. We take dollar bills, quarters, dimes, even pennies. Venmo, PayPal, money order, check. You can go old school or even high tech. As ushers come forth with their cute little baskets, give what you feel in your heart as they pass it. Your gifts are received with much appreciation. Now please join me in reciting the offering affirmation. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I circulate, and I am grateful. Thank you.